Welcome to Friday's Flavor, a podcast where we take the pulse on New York business from New York business. Subscribe to support the movers and shakers, making you love New York. Friday's Flavor, everybody. This is your girl JoJo, and today we have an amazing guest, Christine Smith of riplEFX. I'm so happy that she's on today. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and support local New York business owners and entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for being with us, Christine. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Of course. Well, thank you so much for having me on today. I'm super excited to be on your show. So a little about me. I am a New York native. I came to New York actually in 99, so I'm actually from California as well. So I guess I got a little bit of half and half here. I have been in the networking field for quite a few years now. I didn't ever think it was going to be, a career, obviously, but here we are. I've
The
been,
networking queen herself
yeah,
was never
yes.
going to get into it.
It's so funny to hear people say that. And I had somebody actually call me a networking whisperer, which I just kind of laughed, and I was like, oh, that's a cool name. I'm going to use that.
I like that.
I've been in business for a long time. I've been in sales for almost 15 years, and never really, honestly, really did the networking thing. So this is something that has been kind of growing over the last 4 to 5 years and has really turned into something amazing, I think, to really build community. I'm a mom to a 2.5-year-old daughter, Madeline Jade, which is great. She is a splitting image of me and has
The
my
purple hair too.
not no purple hair, but she definitely has my temperament. I'm like, oh my God, when she's
Oh,
older,
that's
I'm
tough.
gonna
I'm telling
struggle.
you. You're in for it. I got that with my oldest daughter too. She's just like me, and it's like fighting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes she cracks jokes on me, and I can't even get mad because I didn't think of the joke first. That's the only reason I'm
Yeah,
upset.
yeah. I just feel like I can't. She's 2.5, right, and she still somehow manages to be sassy
Yeah.
at me when she does something she's not supposed to be, and I'm like, oh my God, I need to walk away. You can't see me laugh right now. That's not appropriate.
Good luck, girl.
Yeah, thanks.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about riplEFX and what inspired you to start it.
So riplEFX is the brainchild of my networking personality, essentially. So I've been networking intentionally for about 4 years. I've been running recon style groups for some time, and it's really how I've been able to build a business. And no one teaches us how to network, right? No one really teaches how to be professional. Everyone makes the
No.
assumption they know what that is. And what's interesting is that people don't know how to network because no one is having the conversations, but they're also going by example. So when you go to an event, prior COVID-19, oh hey, that person's doing that, they're getting a business card, they're having a conversation about what they do, okay, that's what I should be doing, right?
Right.
But no one's talking about, well, is that really time efficient? Are you actually getting a lot out of that? So I built a company off of actually helping people be more intentional with their conversations and being able to have conversations that were not just about the sale, but about the relationship that would come with that. So looking at those people and saying, well, where do you fall in my circle? Are you a client? Are you a center of influence? Are you going to be my new best friend? Are you a
Right.
combination? Are you someone I'm going to recruit? Like, what are those things? And I think when you have those conversations, it opens up so many more opportunities for you. And it's not just a referral anymore. It's you're getting introduced to other people who are trying to do the same things that you're trying to do and do it a better way, do it more
Yeah.
effectively, do it more intentionally.
I love that you say that, networking intentionally, because it does, when you're doing it for the right reasons, it does need to be intentional. And I've set a really high goal for myself, even recently, where I was like, all right, I have a little over 1,000 connections on LinkedIn. Do I actually know all of them though? And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? Huge goal. I'm going to try to set a one-on-one with every person on my LinkedIn account. It I don't know if it's crazy, I don't know if
No,
it's
I don't think it is at all. I actually was trying to do that myself. So I have like 2,000 something connections, and I've been going through my connections and people who haven't responded to the messages I've sent out, people that I already know, obviously that's easy, but people I haven't talked to in a while, I reach back out to and say, hey, I'd love to have a conversation and see if there's, any additional synergies in working together. Cause that's the whole point of being connected, right? Like it's not
yeah,
just, oh,
exactly.
hey, like let's just be connected so you can follow. And that's something I see a lot on LinkedIn now, and I'm sure you see this too, where
Yeah.
people are like, oh, I have 15,000 connections, and I'm like, well, what are you doing with those connections though?
Exactly. That's why I want to meet with everybody. I'm trying to be intentional in what I'm doing. And I feel like the entire purpose of LinkedIn itself is to get to know other people's business better and to make connections, but not just to make connections, to make meaningful connections. Now, in order for me to make a meaningful connection, though, I have to know who that person is behind the profile. I'm very unlikely to refer or create an introduction to a connection that I have yet to have a one-on-one with, that I don't really know that well. Because let's be honest, there have been people who I've got that one-on-one with who I'm like, I might even delete them. I'm not referring them.
Right,
I'm
right.
definitely not going to create an introduction. Their profile looked great. Their picture is great. You just don't know that person though. And so I feel like having, a mindset of intentional networking, meaningful networking is so important. So I love that you say
Yeah,
intentional.
yeah.
I've noticed, and maybe you've noticed the same, sort of an increase in networking, specifically since COVID-19. Do you agree?
I think I don't know if networking has necessarily increased. I think it just looks different now because everyone's online. So it's almost like you get to see what people are doing more because people are so out there with their
Yeah,
business, whether it's on
yeah,
Facebook or LinkedIn, people are posting about where they're going and what they're doing. So I don't know if networking has necessarily increased per se, but I think most people want that human interaction,
yeah,
and because of COVID-19 that has been taken away from us. So for those of us who were going to events on a regular basis, or I host a lot of events, so not being able to do that anymore, and on top of the 15 to 20 meetings a week, which 70 to 80% of those were in person, to not have that anymore was like, oh, like it was a huge like hit to the heart type of thing if you're a very people person. So I don't necessarily think that there's an increase in networking. I think it's just people are looking at how are they going to continue doing business and in the virtual space now, and trying to scramble to figure that out because most people weren't doing that before at all. They weren't doing any type of communication. Zoom calls weren't a regular thing. Web meetings weren't a typical thing. It was just like, well, you just do that if it's inconvenient for the other person to travel or if they're outside of the area. But look at where we are now, right? That's
now
a
it's
normal
front line. It's like the
thing,
first thing that
right?
you said.
Right.
Oh wow, yeah.
And
I kind of looked at it as people had more time to spend on things like LinkedIn now. People who
yeah,
before you would never see on there, now they're either not working or their business is like really slow, and so they're like, well, how about I throw myself into LinkedIn? I mean, I don't know how effective that is. Like you were saying, like you're seeing it more because it's changed. It's not that
yeah,
there's more of it, it's just in your face now.
yeah.
I wonder how effective that is. Like, I was never on LinkedIn before, but here I am now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it depends on, how someone's putting themselves out there, right? Like, what kind of content are they posting? Were they the type of person that only talked about themselves? Or were they only talking about their product or their service? And are they just doing that virtually now? And, as we know with, how people have acted on Facebook with whatever business that they have, when people are doing that, you kind of don't look at those anymore. You don't look at those posts because they're not interesting enough. They're not, no one's doing something in a non-typical fashion. You're like, oh, well, that's just the normal salesperson route to go. They're not making anything worthwhile for me to look at. I'm not interested because they're
Yeah.
just trying to sell something, which is so interesting too, because everyone is trying to sell something. We all have products and services that we're trying to
Yeah.
offer, and everybody wants to buy, but the difference is no one wants to be sold something. So people are so worried about being like swindled, I guess,
Yeah.
that, you know, when you actually are able to talk about what it is you do and offer, you almost you have to do it in such a way that you have permission to. That
Yeah.
person is actually willing to listen to you, whether it's digitally through social media, or, you know, whether it's a one-on-one, or, you know, at an event or whatever. If you don't have permission, I don't care if you're selling gold bars to somebody. If they're not ready to listen, they're not going to ever listen. And that's where you get that defense. That's where you get that, oh yeah, sure, I'll call you later type situation.
I'm 100% with you there. I kind of feel like if you're not out there right now trying to build relationships instead of making sales, what are you doing? I don't think it's going to be effective. I don't think it's going to work. I really think you'll probably harm a lot of the possible connections that you do make. But if you're really pushing a sale, especially in times like these, versus, you know, being a relationship builder and then following that up with maybe pre-qualifying them and seeing if they even need what you do, um, vice versa. You know, do you need something that they do? Do you what you
Right.
know? I do like that LinkedIn is pretty upfront about what it is. Facebook is a whole other monster. You know, like when you're on Facebook, a lot of people are there for social interaction only. The business that goes on there can sometimes be very aggressive. It almost seems aggressive because I almost look at Facebook as like just a social network. So it's tough to find a good balance on Facebook of not seeming like really pushy and aggressive in sales, because it just doesn't seem like the right platform for it at times. You know, should you be advertising on Facebook? Probably. If you're in a business to consumer, you know, industry, probably. But what I mean is like reaching out to do a lot of the stuff that you would do on LinkedIn does not work on Facebook. Vice versa. There's some stuff I see people put on LinkedIn. I'm like, did you mean to put that on Facebook, honey?
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
did you miss that mark a little bit?
I think it's, you know, I think it's knowing your audience,
Yeah.
right? And that could be said with, you know, with LinkedIn versus Facebook. Those are two very different social platforms, and people kind of use them interchangeably, but they're really not. And I think
Hmm.
you can approach Facebook from a business perspective. And I think a lot of the posts you're referring to, I feel like honestly are lumped into the multi-level marketing
Yeah.
realm. And
Yeah.
you see a lot of those posts from people that are trying to build their business, but they're being told to do that. They're being told to post every day, talk about your business, be passionate, tell people your why, because that's why they're going to join. But unfortunately, because people have been doing that for so long, it's like a cry wolf type situation. People
Yeah.
stop believing you. So
Everybody's jaded.
everybody is jaded. So you know, you can get the information out there and build a successful business in whatever it is. If you are in multi-level marketing, it doesn't matter. If you own your business, you believe in what you do, you know you're going to provide a good service or product to somebody, there's ways to get in front of people and talk about it without saying, here's whatever it is, you need this because it's going to solve all your problems. It's, you know, it's
Yeah.
not that simple anymore.
Yeah.
You got to do it more strategically. You have to wait for the permission to do that, and you have to make sure your exposure is honestly classy and professional. And I think you can still do that on Facebook, on your personal pages, or, you know, even on your business pages, but it takes a little bit of time to do that. You can't just throw stuff out there and say, well, hopefully it works.
Yeah. And you can really damage relationships if you do
Yep.
it the wrong way.
Yep.
Um, go and, you know, for instance, look at somebody who goes and adds you who you haven't talked to for 10 years, and the first thing that they talk to you about is, how's your health? Like, well, I mean, we're in our early 30s. What do you mean, how's my health? I mean, if we were 75 and you were asking me that, I'd sort of get it. Like, yeah, we're all almost there. Let's have that conversation. But we're in our early 30s. What do you mean, how's my health? Yeah, like, do you have any weight loss goals? Oh, dude, it's South Beach, girl. That's why you added me after we haven't spoken for 10 years.
Yeah, right,
And
right.
it's just the wrong approach. There's no real relationship there anymore. Now, if you were to add me and have non-business like conversations with me and strike up genuine relationship where you honestly didn't have the intentions of bringing a sale into it, you are 1,000% more likely to sell me. I mean, 1,000% more likely, because if I
Yeah.
see on your page, like if you post what you do, good example is my friend Lori who does Plexus. Um, I love those products now. She never tried to shove them down my throat though. She added me on Facebook. She had told me what she does a long time ago. I just happened to meet her, I think, selling them floors a long time ago when I used to work in flooring sales, and we had been Facebook friends since that process of that sale process. And so we're talking years go by. I see that she posts that stuff. She's never like spammed my inbox to
Hmm.
try to sell me, right? And I know what she does. I have a general idea of what the products are that she's offering. And then maybe like 5 or 6 years later, I was at a point in my life where I'm like, yo, I really want to do something different. I'm going to reach out to Lori because I know that's what she does. And I did. I reached out to her. She didn't have to reach out to me. I reached out to her and I was like, hey,
Right.
you still do that pink drink crap? And she was like, oh yeah. and she helped me, and I really love the products now and stuff. But if she had been like spamming my inbox and like,
Yeah.
what are you doing, how you feeling, can I talk to you about this weird product, I would have been shut down a long time ago because there's not a
Hmm.
genuine relationship there. But she had kept in touch for 6 years, very not spam like, which was the smart route for that. And I believe that's an MLM company. And that's not there's nothing wrong with MLM companies in my opinion
No,
either. Do what you're going to do. Listen,
not at all.
it's
I hear a lot of people say that they're, pyramid schemes and stuff like that. I'm like, listen, you can say that about any business, right? Like, you can have a virtual online business and it be legitimate. Just like
mhm,
anything else, if you open a brick and mortar, you got to put time and effort into it. You cannot expect to make $1 million just by having people know who you are and you just sit there and not do anything to get there. You have
right.
to have conversations, you have to network, you have to get out there, you have to get exposure. So, there are people that I know that are in these businesses and are doing really well and
Yeah.
they have legitimate businesses, and I think I wish more people gave them opportunity, but I also wish they were teaching things differently. The way that they network is not the way that they should be networking anymore. That was something that worked 10 years ago before there was, too many multi-level marketing companies, but now there's a lot there.
No, it's
There's
saturated.
a million. It's so saturated, right? And people are so tired of those inboxes and that sort of thing. But if somebody had a completely different approach and had a different conversation, and they're like, listen, I'm just trying to get more people to know what it is that I do. I want to meet other people who might be a good value to my own Rolodex for the clients I know I'm going to get who have other concerns that I'm not an expert in. And that's a completely different conversation now, right? It's not just, oh wow, you're just trying to sell me something. You're actually, yeah, sure, if I become a client, that's great, but that's not the end all be all of this conversation. And like you said, when people make it known what they do but they don't try and sell you, that leaves an impact on you. And then if it comes up at a later point, you might want to work with that person because you never felt like you were being sold something, and you're more
Exactly.
apt to want to buy because that person offered a relationship and said, hey, door's always open, but I'm not going to chase after you and shove things down your throat unless you give me permission to do so.
Exactly. And I think what a lot of people in maybe an MLM sales don't understand, because again, the culture is way different and they aren't taught these sort of things. Not everybody is a customer.
Right.
There's this very strange sort of because I have been to MLM meeting MLM
MLM.
LMLM meetings in the past for companies. I have been a part of MLMs in the past. I know that there's this culture of talk to everybody. You got to talk to everybody, and anybody is your client, your potential customer. No, Not really.
Yeah.
Something that I've learned in sales is you've got to pre-qualify people. There are some
Hmm.
people who just straight don't need what you got. They
Right.
just don't have a need for it. And to tell yourself that everybody is a customer and everybody is going to buy for me and everybody should buy for me is setting yourself up for failure and
Oh,
for
100%.
a lot of disappointment, because it's just not true. It's that's wild to think that everybody out there has a need for what you have. No, but there are some people out there who do want and need what you have, so you should be talking about it, absolutely. But don't get upset when 75% of the people that you talk to reject your offer. It's not you. It's
Hmm.
what you have. It's not personal. It's the product that you have is just not right for them right now.
Right.
You
Right.
know, walk away from it. Maybe it will be in 5, 6 years. You don't know. Keep it up. Don't stop. Do what you're doing. Those people are out there who need what you've got, but not everybody is a customer. You've got to pre-qualify
Correct.
people. I wish I had known that a long time ago in
Oh
sales.
yeah, same. Right. Having been in sales this long. Oh yeah, let me tell you. Would have been
Yeah.
nice to know that information a long time ago.
Yeah, the rejection wouldn't have felt so bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a
And
tough business.
it's, I mean, rejection is an interesting word too, because I feel like that is something people deal with anyway. So on the networking front, people don't have those intentional conversations, or people don't go to an event with the intention of accomplishing something. They're just going just to meet people and hoping something happens. And as we all know, like, hope is not a plan, right? That's just, well, life's and dreams and rainbows and unicorns, right? Like, it's all going to work out. Well,
Cupcakes and pony rides, baby.
why can't we make it, go towards that direction by actually, being more intentional, right, and strategic with our time? But what I have found in having multiple conversations and through development opportunities, and people are worried about rejection. So people network the way that they've thought people have always networked, which, as we know, doesn't really work anymore, because people are like, well, the wheel's not broken, why fix it? I'm like, well, no offense, but it may not be broken, but let me tell you, that wheel has been used too long. There is no tread left. There is not much air in that tire, and it is not working. It needs to be replaced. It needs to be updated. You are driving a newer car. There is no reason you should be driving with those tires.
Yeah.
So let's have a different conversation, and let's not, let's talk about the mindset
That
of
is really
networking
great.
is not there, and no one is asking those questions. No one is telling people, well, how do you actually feel when you go to an event, and why do you feel that way? Well, how do we make sure you don't feel that way anymore? Because that thought process is what's causing some of those behaviors, and it's what's causing some of those bad habits that you have. It is why your business has plateaued. It is why you don't feel comfortable asking people to send you referrals. You don't even know how to ask for referrals, and you don't even know who your clients actually are. I mean, all of these problems kind of loop into one thing, and it does drastically affect how you have these networking conversations, ultimately affecting communication, which, is super imperative in any type of business. But, even from a marketing perspective, how do you expect to really market your business if you have no idea what you're supposed to be doing? Because you have
Yeah.
no clarity, because you're so worried, that rejection and judgment mindset has been there from the beginning. I don't care if you've been in business for 15 or 20 years. You ask somebody, tell me about your target market, and they're like, oh, I work with everybody. I'm like, yep, you don't know. You don't know who you work with.
Yeah,
That's a
you always say that too. I really like that on your posts. You always ask for people to be more specific, because you're right. Not everybody. You can't possibly be for everybody.
nope, you're not.
You've got to be looking for a more meaningful connection than that, a more, direct, connection than that. You can't just say, oh, I can help the whole world, man.
I mean, we all want that, right? But I think, even look at it from a very small perspective. Well, who are you? What are you like? Are you going to attract the people that you think you're supposed to be going after? if the answer is no or I don't know, well, why the hell are you going after them? Like, you're wasting your time, and that's you might as well put your head in the sand and be like, well, hopefully some business comes someday. Like, you're not helping yourself at all. That's a
No.
big inefficient use of your time. And not for nothing, but I don't have time to just talk to people that I shouldn't be talking to.
Right. That's the point that I think we all learn a little late, but once we get
Yeah.
it, you really start to see the wheels of burning up. You start to get a lot of more connections that mean something, and you really start to see business boom from that.
Yep.
And you have to drop the scarcity mindset. I agree. The scarcity mindset of, oh, it'll never work. They'll never answer. Nobody wants what I've got.
Right.
That comes from that, taking things personally and feeling rejected when not everybody needs what you've got. Drop it. It's not helping you. Talk to us about the importance of direct introductions and referral relationships in your world.
So I think everyone, if you ask anybody, what's a warm lead like for you? Everyone wants that, right? Like, everyone gets super excited about, those types of conversations, right? But I think people miss the boat when they only are asking for referrals. They're not having conversations about introductions. So the difference, in my opinion, referrals, introductions. So referral is somebody that was directly connected to you because of your product or service that you offer, whatever that is. An introduction is somebody that was introduced to you because of a higher level thing, like just because you have connections and you're hoping that you can work together to go down to that referral conversation, whether it's with them or other people you connect with them on. But I think people only focus on one. They only focus on, well, I just want the referrals. Well, I'm telling you right now, the referral is one person. One. What if that introduction gives you 5, 10, 15, 20 referrals, or they introduce you to somebody else who's going to be a massive referral source for you? You don't know because you're not willing to have those conversations. So, for me in my business, and just having been in sales this long, coaching other people on what exactly it is that I'm looking for has been the best prospecting model I have ever used. And offering advocacy for other people leads to them advocating for me, and offering the reciprocity model too, and saying, listen, I'm going to lead by example, and I'm going to make those introductions for you regardless of what happens in our relationship. And I'm going to make sure you're fully aware as to what I'm looking for client wise, what I'm looking for connection wise on the networking front, and who are going to be introductions that I need in my circle to add to my Rolodex that are either going to be on behalf of my clients or other people in my network. And now we've established this this baseline, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's already there. That foundation is built, and hopefully where we go from here is powerful, right? And if not, maybe you'll come back at another time, or maybe you're just a couple steps down in my networking layers or whatever. But yeah, you got to ask, but you also have to coach people on what you're looking for. You can't just expect, because you're awesome at what you do, people are automatically going to make those referrals and introductions. And I find that very interesting when somebody hands you their card and say, oh, well, introduce me to anybody that's looking for X, Y, and Z. And it's like, well, that's not very specific. And I'm only focused on this one thing that wasn't even specific. So it's not going to stick in my mind. It pulled no emotional heartstring whatsoever. But if I tell you, well, I'm looking for somebody who's very type A, business owner, female, 38 to 40, maybe a single mom, has a fireball personality, you're going to immediately think of certain people, or even yourself, that fits into those categories, right? And the
Right.
more specific you are, the more likely somebody's going to remember, because you painted a picture now.
That's
It's
so
not
true.
it's not just a shadow of a person. That person has hair, that person has clothes, that person has a handbag, they're wearing heels, you know what color they are. Like, you're very specific, right? Like, you've painted
Yeah.
that picture. And humans need that detail in order to recall those details.
That's
So
so true.
the more storytelling you can do, the more likely you're going to get those introductions. And before you get that story going, you have to ask. I mean, I tell people, to be honest with you, I don't just ask for introductions. I'm like, this is how you're going to introduce me when you come across somebody who exhibits these either issues or has these personality traits of somebody that I want in my circle.
That is so direct. I love it. I love it. I think that's really fabulous. I don't know many people who do that, to be honest. And I wish I knew more, because I do tell people when like I was saying, I'm trying to do one-on-ones with everybody, get to know everybody in my network. And I'll often ask them, who can I introduce you to? And when you just did that and you described to a T the person that you're looking for, I immediately, even though we aren't really doing this right now, I immediately started
Yep.
in my mind
Who that was.
to draw the picture of who I
Yep.
know who fits that exact profile. And
Yep.
that's really funny. That works, guys, because I just went someplace mentally. That's crazy.
And it's funny, like humans want to help other people, right?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people think, well, if I do a good job, somebody's going to give me a referral. And I'm like, not necessarily.
Yeah.
I don't care.
You have to give too. I feel like if you're not introducing people and being willing to refer, and you're not genuinely looking out for your network is not going to do the same with you.
Absolutely. There is that, but you also got to keep in mind too, when we're just talking about the client side of things, right? And we're talking about people who are not having the networking mindset to any capacity because they're in a job where that's not needed. You have to coach people. You have to tell people exactly what you want. And what I find very interesting is that most people beat around the bush on a lot of different things. That is a common mistake I see happen. I did it too. You're like, oh, well, you kind of assume that if you do a good job, or, if you do right by people, or if you act a certain way, that you're going to get what you want in return. No, you need to actually tell people what it is that you're looking for. You need to tell people what it is that you want. You need to tell people what it is that you do, what kind of clients you work with, how you work with them, how you're different. I hear all the time people like, oh, it's too saturated in my business. I'm like, that's just a mindset. You think competition exists? It doesn't. You are your own person. Nobody is going to be like you.
Yeah.
You're going to talk like you, going to sell like you. I don't care if you work at the same company with 500 people. It doesn't matter. They're not you. So, it's all in how you look at things. It's your perspective.
Yes,
and
I agree.
if you can think outside the box on how to have those conversations and be more intentional, and you can do it in a non-aggressive way, right? Like when I asked you that, well, I told you that or describing that to you, I've never had anyone that said, oh, that was a really aggressive way to ask for, introductions to other people. I was just simply matter of factly saying like, hey, when you make these introductions, here is how I would like it done. Here is what you should be listening for. And what's interesting is like, I'm still asking for referrals, but I'm not saying, well, open up your phone and give me the first 10 names. Like that's super direct, but that's also aggressive and in my opinion, kind of weird and invasive. I don't want to be
a little weird.
Yeah.
If somebody did that to me, I'd be like, oh yeah, hold on, my phone's out in Hawaii.
Bye.
Bye. I gotta go grab that. I'll be back in 45 hours.
That has worked for some people, but I just feel like
it would not work for me.
I can be assertive. I can tell people what I want, and they're either going to be a part of it or not. That's simple. They're either going to be a client or they're not. They're going to either be a part of my network or not. But if I don't show people, well, here is what it is. Here is who I am. Here is what I stand for. Here is how I help people. It doesn't matter at that point. I know they're not going to meet someone else like me because I haven't found anyone else that has purple hair, for starters. So that's always a good place to start, right?
Hey.
I mean, like, you're not going to meet anyone like me. But if you do, here's how I'm different, right?
Yeah. I love that. I don't think you'll meet another Jolene either. So I totally get you on that. There's 45 types of bread on the shelf, okay? There's a lot of variety out there. You don't have to worry about there not being enough business to go around for everybody. Right. And people are going to like your flavor a little bit different. You know what I mean?
Correct.
That's what it's all about. What does the future of riplEFX look like to you?
Well, I think riplEFX is going to go a lot of different places. We offer a networking platform that works through pandemic. So it's pandemic proof. It works anywhere in the world. So, people have the opportunity to network with people outside of their area on a regular basis because we already offer the process. It's already built. And we offer a way to get people to actually have further development on how they can be a more intentional networker. So they're learning from the best. It's not just, well, hey, here, take some of these tidbits of information and good luck with life. It's, we're going to hold you accountable. We're going to make sure that you can implement and evolve these practices within your own business and make it your own. But here are some things to go by. Here is some information that everyone's heard of, right? This isn't new information. This isn't anything life-shattering. I didn't invent anything, right? But as I said at the beginning, the wheels that have been on this car don't work anymore. So we've replaced them. They are better. They have better traction. You know, they actually stop when you press on the brake, and they're going to get you where you want to go if you do it the right way. So that is something that riplEFX has the ability to go international. We've already had people from other countries who have considered starting groups, and I envision maybe 5 years from now, you go to an event, and imagine going to an event and actually having a conversation with somebody and you don't feel weird. It's not awkward. You go to a networking event and it's not like high school cafeteria all over again. You go and you're like, oh my God, I had a great time. I met some awesome people. I can't wait to have a better conversation with them about what they do. You're actually excited. You're animated. You can be yourself and still do business and not feel like, oh, that's the icky part of my life, is the fact that I have, this business, right? You can be unapologetic about what it is that you're doing, because now you know how to network intentionally. You know who to surround yourself by. You know what types of clients you're looking for. You have clarity. You're not worried about rejection anymore. You're not worried about the judgment. You can be yourself. There's this whole other confidence piece that comes in when you have a better idea of that mindset and that networking concept. And that is something we're trying to do. We are trying to have people be more prepared when it comes to networking, whatever industry that they're in, and they can have more clarity, which leads to more confidence, which honestly eliminates some of that fogged mindset that people have when it comes to communication and building relationships. And it applies not just in business, it applies on the personal side too, because that fear of rejection comes out when you're dating. So I'm not saying we've solved all problems in regards to that, but we're having people think differently now. We want people to think a little bit differently about what exactly it is they're trying to accomplish.
It's so funny that you say that too, because I have never looked at networking like that. And so I know that's the thing. I know that there are people who are terrified to go to networking events. They are scared to talk to people about, and I'm like, that blows my mind. I love going to those things. I'm like, hi everybody, who wants to play with me? So I'm like, stupid extrovert. But there are people who, they have a kind of different mindset on how networking works. So I'm really glad that you said that, because I almost forget about that sometimes, that it's hard for some people to network. It's hard. It doesn't come first nature.
Right.
And then to wrap it up, my favorite question of the program: what is your number one tip for all of the hopeful entrepreneurs out there hoping to go into business sometime soon?
I feel like I should have a two-part answer. So networking, for sure. You need to just network. Be coachable. You are not going to know everything. Whether you think you do or not, get off your high horse. You're going into business because you're doing something you love, but you don't know everything there is to know about running a business. There are people who know bits and pieces, who are experts in certain fields. You should definitely have a business coach. You should have someone helping you learn how to network better. You should have somebody helping you, plan things financially. You should have somebody helping you with your tax, your LLC development, whatever those things are, your website, your marketing, the list could go on and on, right?
Yeah.
Have the experts help you with those things so that you can focus on, your business development and your clarity around your clients, so that, your business is going to build a lot faster, because you're going to be able to have more intentional conversations at that point. So your business can build, you can actually get clients. rather than just say, well, hopefully this works out. That's not a good way to go into, starting a business.
I am 100% with you on all of that, Christine. I think it's something that we talked about. If you've watched any of our episodes, if it doesn't come up at least once an episode, then I don't know, maybe there's one or two that are missing it. But we always talk about, don't be afraid to collaborate with people who have been doing it already, who know what
Right.
they're doing. You are the expert in X, Y, and Z for your business. This is why you're going into business, because you're passionate about this. But there's an entire alphabet involved in this situation. It's not just X, Y, and Z. Running a business is A to Z, lots of different components and parts, and there's no way you could possibly know it all. There's just no way. And so you
Right.
have to be willing to say, I need a CPA, I need a PR person, I need a marketer, I need a business development something. I need help in these areas.
Yeah.
And you
Right.
have to be willing to say, this is where I lack and need some assistance, and then here are my strong points. And you have to be honest with yourself. And that actually, coachability does not come easily for everybody. Some people have especially people who are strong entrepreneurship mindset, like those really high C people, those really high dominant personality type people. Also, they sometimes struggle with wanting to micromanage and control every aspect of everything. And I'm not saying that they're arrogant and believe that they know everything, but they do try to do it all often.
Yeah.
And that's,
Yeah. I mean, that's a common thing, right? It's your baby. You don't want anyone else screwing it up. You know what I mean? So I understand that, speaking from somebody who's very type A and very articulate, and OCD with a lot of things, I get it. However, you're setting yourself up for failure, because you're going to end up exhausting time in areas you have no business exhausting time in, because that is not what you should be doing and working on in your business.
amen.
And you just don't know what you don't know. So talking with people, whether it's in the business that you're trying to get into, if they don't want to talk to you, then that's on them, that's not on you. And just having conversations that are open, and taking things with a grain of salt, I think is a great idea, right? Like, you can be coachable, but that doesn't mean you're taking 100% of someone's advice. You're
Exactly.
looking at things from a different perspective. Somebody who's non-emotional is helping you get through something that's highly emotional. So if you can have a different perspective and look at it slightly differently, well, now when you go through this again in a different way, you're gonna go through it very differently. It's like the first time you ever bought a house, and then when you do it again, you're like, oh, it wasn't that bad this time. No, it's just you have experience now. You know what not to do. You know what to ask this time. You know which inspector to use, because the last time the guy sucked, right? Like, you know what you're doing this time. So, talk to the people who have experience and be open-minded to their perspective, because it could be the difference between you really killing your business. And I mean killing as in it doesn't come back, or you go in the opposite direction and you just totally killing it, and you're rocking and rolling because you were open. You're able to pivot. COVID-19, right? is a perfect example of that. Who pivoted? Who was willing to listen? Who was willing to look at perspective on that?
That is awesome. It's been amazing chatting with you, Christine. I'm so glad that you were on today. And anybody who would like to join a riplEFX group, who wants some more information, can reach out to Christine using the information below here. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your knowledge with us, girl.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Happy Friday, everyone.